This man was attempting to tame an elephant. The elephant knocked him out with its trunk, killing him instantly. A prince was the next to go into combat. Someone purposefully fed the elephant alcohol to make it more aggressive. Could the prince succeed in his challenge? The prince ascended from the back of the horse. He turned around in the air. His aura radiated a royal appearance. The elephant was just as formidable. When the elephant yelled, the prince began to rush. In the first duel, the prince was thrown far away. But he quickly got up and resumed his battle. The elephant's trunk encircled him. As if to tighten him, the prince unexpectedly joined his two hands and struck them hard into the elephant's head, causing it to scream in pain. Then it turned and fled. Indeed, the prince was not an ordinary person. He was as brave as a lion pursuing an elephant. The duel was resumed by both sides. Inconclusive for the time being. The lion hopped on the back of the elephant and transformed back into a prince. He threw a powerful punch with both hands clenched again. He fully conquered and tamed the elephant. Everyone in the audience applauds, as the prince was their future king. Many females were attracted to him and wanted to marry him. However, the prince would never marry them, because the prince's real identity was that of a female. What exactly was going on? On that day, 20 years ago, the queen gave birth. If she gave birth to a girl, it meant there was no successor, and the kingdom would be enslaved. The king's two younger brothers were planning a revolt. They had gathered an army in preparation for an attack. Unfortunately, the queen gave birth to a daughter. So, how should they handle this? At this point, the king in high declared that the queen had given birth to a prince. After that, the king reared the prince as a man at a young age. In addition, the prince persevered in martial arts training. She had tan skin and appeared to be quite strong. The prince had never had any doubts about her gender. Until one day she was on her period. She was terrified, so she went to the queen. Because she felt something was wrong. At this moment, the king had to reveal the truth to the prince. The aim of everything was to protect the kingdom. The prince understood the king's anguish, and privately swore that for the rest of her life, she would disguise herself as a man. She would become a brave prince. Following that, the opposing troops cut off the river's water supply, causing a widespread drought. As a result, the prince constructed a huge number of water reservoirs in turn, and temporarily abolished high tariffs. That was an excellent tactic at the time. However, there were still skeptics that spoke out in opposition. The prince quickly used her swordsmanship, and with the speed of the wind, she effortlessly beat all of the rebels by herself. The prince frightened heaven as well, causing it to rain heavily. Following that, the prince proposed building 7 walls around the kingdom, to defend the whole kingdom from enemies' attack. At the next sports festival, a hero showed off his incredible rope-swinging skills. He rapidly hoisted his body to the top of the high pole, as quickly as the rushing water. The king recognized him as the world's hero. He did, however, inform the king that the royal members were oppressing the civilians. The prince instantly told the troops to encircle this blundering talker. Surprisingly, the surrounding children grabbed a slingshot and shot the troops in the back. This person turned out to be a knight, who took from the rich and donated to the poor. He had a well-known reputation in the area. Finally, he snatched a treasure trunk, and rode his horse away leisurely. Every day, the prince donned heavy iron armor in order to hide her female identity. In her spare time, she enjoyed going to the hidden chamber by herself, to bathe in the river. When the knight went to the river that day, he spotted her. However, neither of them recognized the other. At first sight, two people fell in love. Both wanted to be each other's angels for the rest of their lives. The prince knew she couldn't marry in this life, so she suppressed her feelings in her heart. Then she secretly returned to the palace. But secrets could not be kept hidden indefinitely. A spy in the kingdom discovered the prince pretending to be a man. Seeing the 25-year secret about to be disclosed, this spy had to be eliminated. The prince put an end to the spy's life right away. According to the prince's uncle, the prince should marry quickly in order to have a descendant. They intended to assault him during the wedding. The assailants were hiding in an elephant, but the knight unexpectedly appeared. Only one arrow was fired, and all of the assailants were burned. He rescued the prince one more time. The prince was well aware that her two uncles were harming her. Although there was chaos inside and enemy outside, external problems had to be handled initially. Following that, punishing the two uncles would be able to protect the kingdom. But the prince was a girl. If she and the bride married, her identity would be revealed. Fortunately, the bride was solely interested in eating. She couldn't stop herself when she spotted the sugar candy. The prince informed her that she had taken a vow to help the people live in peace. So she was uninterested in love. The bride understood the prince. She told the prince to give her sugar sweets and silently left. From then on, the prince led her troops to battle in a variety of places, and annexed a number of neighboring nations. to easily increase the kingdom's military. In fact, the bride quickly realized that the prince was a girl. It's simply that she didn't reveal the prince for the sake of the cause. "You don't get married in this life for the sake of the kingdom's safety," she said to the prince. "So it's not a problem for me to bear a little resentment." To confront the avaricious members of the royals, the knight never hesitated to recruit troops. His achievement as a taker from the rich and giver to the poor was still running great. That touched people a lot. Members of the royals' henchmen, who were about to attack him, also surrendered to him. He raised strong troops and went everywhere to serve justice. Meanwhile, the prince let her subordinates marry each other, in order to deepen their unity. She also worked hard to construct water reservoirs where people might dwell and settle down. The prince alone went to find a knight. During the fight, he cut the prince's clothing with his sword. As a result, the female identity, which had been hidden for 25 years, was disclosed. At this time, the knight discovered that the woman he had always adored was truly a prince. The prince told him that she would dedicate her life to the kingdom, and she promised him that in their next life, they would be a couple. He understood her thoughts. It was fine not to marry, but he wanted to be her guardian messenger for the rest of his life. The opposing country's female spy discovered the prince's real identity as a girl, and promptly notified the royals. When the king launched the festival, the two uncles sat in the king's position, and planned to depose the king. The king informed everyone that the prince was a girl. To stabilize the kingdom, he had no other choice. "We now have a formidable army under the command of the prince. People can live in peace and establish themselves." After that, the king formally crowned his daughter queen. People did not oppose. So the two uncles' plan failed. But they didn't stop there. During the coronation ceremony, the two uncles incited the populace to reject the queen's accession to the throne. The king recounted the queen's prior accomplishments. "As long as the people can live in peace, anyone can ascend to the throne." However, people were still unable to accept this. The two uncles even poured fuel into the existing fires. In the end, the prince would not be able to become queen. She was expelled from the kingdom, never to return. The elephant she had tamed also left with her. The prince had just gone, and the enemy country assembled its forces in preparation for an attack. The two uncles staged a coup against the court. They even stole the throne. The kingdom was on the edge of collapse in the blink of an eye. Innocent civilians continued to suffer the miserable situation. In desperation, everyone wanted the prince back. Only he could assist them in achieving a stable life. On the prairie, the mighty army declared battle. Regardless of triumph or defeat, they stabbed and murdered each other. The two uncles were at the palace at the time. The queen arrived to declare war. There were 7 lines of defense in the kingdom, so they were not scared. She quickly overcame the first line of stone defense. Then she set fire to the bamboo that served as the second line of defense. The scenery was really imposing and magnificent. The imperial army encircled her like a snake. Troops with lances aimed at her. She leaped off of the elephant and charged towards the enemies. She fully embodied the role of a courageous female hero. At this point, the knight who led the troops arrived, transforming the army into a massive eagle that surrounded the snake. The two people combined very well. To defeat the adversary, the queen shot and murdered 2 treacherous uncles with her bow and arrows. The enemy's army was on its way. The knight was prepared for battle. Following the first attack, the two forces fought in front of the gate of the kingdom. The scenario was quite chaotic. The queen rushed to a crucial battle with the commander of the opposing country. It was difficult to predict who would win. The queen stepped on her opponent's sword. Then she whirled around and struck the opponent with a deadly blow. After successfully rescuing the kingdom, everyone respected her and formally proclaimed her queen. The queen addressed everyone, saying, "We all drink from the same river, we are all relatives. Both kingdoms are one family. Why must we all murder each other?" The leader of the adversary intended to assassinate her with a knife. However, she easily overpowered him. The queen gained the people's hearts, achieved enormous success, and accomplished her great cause. The knight, who had always secretly supported the queen, also succeeded. But in the end, he was unable to become the queen's man. So he dragged the woman he adored out of the kingdom, to enjoy their freedom. This is a film about an epic Indian hero. Based on a true story, the screenplay was written. This queen became the first queen in South Indian history, and had ruled the kingdom for 30 years. She still didn't have any children after getting married. Before she died, she ceded the throne to her nephew. The film comes to an end here. See you in the next movie. Goodbye.